Hey, peace. Welcome to the Real HD Show, the higher discussion with prime time with a purpose. Don't get nervous. We're going below the epidermis, the good, the bad, the ugly of our people, healing it with freedom music. Let's just do it. All right, we're back. And you saw a rock out to one of the many, many really, really great beats that you'll hear on broadcast beats. And then you saw the lineup for the Real HD show coming to you this week. That's right, tonight, which is Wednesday, we got the Real HD show. Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, we have the Big House Breakdown at 12 p.m. Then on Friday, we have Broadcast Beats. That's right. That's that music show. We're going to do a real hot interview with C-Biz Official, super producer. Don't want to miss that. Saturday, we got Sage Dragon Book Club show. And Sunday, in the bonus, a hoop show for hoop heads. You want to be everywhere tuned into all of that on the Real HD Network. You want to make sure that you're tuned in. Mark us on your calendar. Share that clip. Share the show right now and let them know that the Real HD show is on. And we are here to bring you the best and the brightest, the good, the bad, the ugly of our people. Had to heal it with a little bit of freedom music. That track was banging, so I had to play it. So we're back. I'm your host, Vic. We are the higher discussion. We usually don't do freedom music during the show, but I thought I'd toss y'all a lifeline tonight because I'm feeling that sort of way. And We just want to welcome y'all to the show. This is our social justice show where we solve the good, the bad, the ugly of our people, but we heal it with freedom music blasting off to 4 Facebook channels: YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Kick. D Live Trovo Nation. Everywhere you want to be, we are the Real HD. You tap in, we get you in here. If you would like to participate with the show, right? You want to rock out with us. The way to do that is I will put the call letters below. You tap in, you come live on stage with us, and we can rock out. If not, I'm zooming through the information. Your job to catch up. No echo chambers, no baby time here. But we are going to give you that awareness so you can move fearless tonight on the Real HD Show. So if you want to rock with us, the way to do that, if you want to get live on stage, you want to comment, you can comment through the various, you know, social media outlets that we're on. And if you want to get on here live with us, you want to jump on 86T5 WD4. Is that a L or I? I believe that's a LIG. Okay. So that's the way you do it. You put it up above in your URL. I let you in, and then we'll begin to make it better. Yes, that's what we do here. Let's have a higher discussion so we can make it better. How do we begin to make it better? With a little bit of AAT report. The happy, healthy, wealthier, and wiser. Here we go.
Awake could be something you've ate. Can't sleep, sleep pattern can't regulate. What did you have on your plate? Too much fast food, high fat, well saturated, too much white salt, make your body dehydrate. And all the additives they add for the taste, aspartame, monosodium glutamate. And you know that you're eating too much too late. You should only eat a very light snack after 8. Belly abuse, give your stomach a break. It's working overtime for a low pay rate. The coffee, the caffeine, the energy drink. You're so wide awake you can't even blink. Try water, chamomile tea, peppermint, cherry juice, celery juice, help you get 40 wings. Try and get food with tryptophan. What a thing, increases the serotonin. The serotonin helps the melatonin. The melatonin control the sleeping. Eat late, that can lead to dreaming. Trying to rest but your mind's streaming. The food that you ate is still digesting. Your circadian rhythm it's interfering. Eat wholesome foods with a lot of vitamin. Not eat late, wait till a morning. You might see an improvement in your sleeping, cause it can be connected to what you're eating. A Medical Monday. Yes, I am.
That was our medical Wednesday. He did this on Monday. I'm showing it on Wednesday. It's all very, very pertinent and welcome information. You guys do with that what you will. If you guys want to chime in and talk about you having trouble sleeping out there, are you guys aware of the things that may be hurting you from the sleep process? I struggle with that myself. Not so much as of late, but last year, last year was heavy on the sleep depravity. So this year, this second half of this year, a little bit better than before. Had to curtail some things, had to get some things under control. You can too. Tap in, tell us what you do to make it better. That was an AAT report, real quick one. Why? Because we're going to jump right into our elders and ancestors report on the Real HD Show. Here we go. We're in the elders and ancestors blueprint. We're standing on the shoulders of greatness, and we make a lot of mistakes, and we try to figure out a lot in real time, and we don't often kind of open up a book, go back to yesteryear, and think about some of the things that our ancestors did, our forefathers and mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, great grands, what they did to solve their problems. Nothing new under the sun. So we're going to drop this one. Here we go.
Tire on every car in the world relies on chemistry created by a black scientist who never got credit? Lloyd Hall was a brilliant chemist working in the 1920s when rubber products were failing catastrophically. Tires would crack and fall apart during long drives, gaskets would deteriorate, and rubber goods were unreliable and dangerous. The problem was chemical breakdown. Oxygen would attack rubber molecules, causing them to weaken and shatter. Hall developed revolutionary antioxidant compounds that prevented this degradation completely. His chemical stabilization methods created a protective barrier that kept rubber flexible and strong for years. Before his work, a cross-country road trip was a gamble with your life. After his innovations, automobiles became safe for long-distance travel anywhere. Today, every tire manufacturer on Earth still uses his exact chemical formulations. His chemistry is in every single rubber product made globally. Yet you will never see Lloyd Hall's name on a tire or rubber product anywhere. A black chemist's invisible genius keeps the entire world moving safely.
Shout out to Lloyd Hall. Shout out to him. His products, just like Granville T. Woods, just like Elijah McCoy, just like Sarah Rector, just like all the great inventors of our people, help to keep the world going, you know, thankless, just like Henrietta Lacks and her miracle cells, thankless. Um, I brought that one up because now we have a good brother named Jalen Green who has created gasoline from plastic. And I'm not saying he's gonna go unsung and have a stolen legacy in his honor, but there may be times, and we know how this America works. We know it's pay to play. You know that they are pirates in the worst way. So we want to protect our inventors while giving them the credit that they so desperately need. Um, you inventors out there, don't forget to do what Granville T. Woods did and what Elijah McCoy did, and take them jokers to court and prepare an super tight case so that you can get the credit for your own patents and further your own estate. Yeah, man, we doing it. We doing it. We doing it. We moving on though. Here we go. Oh, that was a stolen legacy intro that I just played. We haven't done a stolen legacy moment in a minute. I figured I'd do one tonight. Waiting for everybody to tap in. Y'all let everybody know we're live. Y'all let everybody know that it's time to chop it up on some real stuff tonight. I got some really great items to share, some ism schism game to kick. And right now we're on stolen legacy. Let's take a look.
You know why old pictures made black people look gray or ashy or like they're standing in the dark? Because cameras weren't built to see us. Literally, Kodak built film that was color balanced to white skin. And the way they did it was something called the Shirley card. So back in the 50s, Kodak picked this one white woman named Shirley to be the face of all color film. Labs around the world got these Shirley cards. A white woman in perfect lighting smiling in a studio. That was the standard. The industry calibrated the entire concept of color to one white woman's skin tone. So when you brought in your family photos, your black, brown, or mixed skin faces, the machines didn't know what to do. It would try to make you look like Shirley. And if you look like me, there's no way you're looking like Shirley. But of course, when it couldn't, it just dimmed you out. That's why your grandparents' photos look like they were taken on the dark side of the moon. And of course, the excuse was like, it's not racist, it's just technical. But you don't accidentally design an entire technology around whiteness. That's a choice. They didn't build cameras that couldn't see black people. They built cameras that didn't need to. Because who were they photographing, right? White families, white weddings, white ads. Black faces didn't exist to them unless it was for a mugshot or a headline. We were never the audience. We were always the backdrop. But here's the part that's going to make your blood boil, right? Because Kodak didn't fix this for us. They fixed it because chocolate factories and furniture makers complained saying that their ads looked bad. Dark wood and dark chocolate were hard to capture on camera. So they literally improved color film to make products look good, not the people. Cool. We weren't even seen as worth adjusting for until companies started losing money. Capitalism said, we can't see black folks, and Kodak said, yeah, okay, that's fine. But when capitalism said we can't sell chocolate, Kodak said, oh my God, we must do something. Oh, I swear you can't make this up. It wasn't until the 1990s, yes, the 1990s, that Kodak released multiracial Shirley cards. Not because they suddenly grew a conscience, but because they couldn't sell film in Africa, the Caribbean, or South America anymore. You can't market whiteness in a world that is literally full of color. So they added some brown faces, patted themselves on the back, and called it progress. Like decades of erasure could be fixed with a rebrand. So yeah, next time you look at those old pictures and wonder why your grandma looks invisible, remember that she wasn't. It was just the film that refused to see her. Because it wasn't bad lighting, it wasn't an accident, it was designed. A camera calibrated to whiteness. A world built to pretend that only Shirley mattered. And the wildest part, people still act like that was just a glitch in the system. But nah, that was the system. Yeah. Let me ruin.
All right, we're back. Real HD show talking about we are talking about the Shirley card. And that was, even growing up in the 70s and the 80s, you could tell by the way that pictures were designed and developed, especially when you had the instant camera with the instant flash, and you had to really work that joker in your hand and wag it back and forth real fast, wave it like a Polaroid picture. So you see, Polaroid went out their way to create color that was spectrum centric, whereas Kodak didn't. And since we know white is a construct, that was a power play, devising film or devising a way of scaling, you know, a preferred class of people or ethno group of a people was a choice. It absolutely was. And they did so because they didn't feel or they didn't think that another ethnic group of people who's been on the continent for 400 years mattered. Very, 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 very devious, insidious stuff. Not to mention, Kodak was down with that, German looting of, them Auschwitz people. They got a lot of money from the Germans during that World War II situation. So, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's a rattle, there's probably a snake. Um, and I would, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring attention to the things that, go on with the backdrop in the context of American business and why America is what it is today, why they go out their way to, you know, present themselves a certain way, why they want to all of a sudden ban books and stop the progress of ethnic groups that have been here for before the country was started. And that's to not reveal truths like these. The Shirley card, right? And if you think about it, the the onset of the holiday phenomenon in America, which happened somewhere around the 20s, 30s, 40s, all took place on greeting cards that were shot in labs like Kodak in big factory labs that produced greeting cards that went all over the world and showed the pish posh way that people were supposed to celebrate holidays. You were supposed to look like Shirley, celebrate your holiday like Shirley, which is like she was the wife and she provided a big, audacious table of food for people, whether it made you sick or not, whether your combinations were too hyperglycemic or too glucose oriented or, any of those types of things. But you were supposed to have a chandelier, a master table, 12 people around the master table, feeding off a feast that could feed probably 50 people, and you were pish posh. Oh my gosh, look at us. Now the look at us on IG, we're wearing matching pajamas and we're wearing matching winter coats and we look special. And then we just feed into the fantasy. And then, of course, you do it for Thanksgiving, and then you turn right back around and do it for Christmas. And then you may even turn around and do it for New Year's, because, of course, you got to have your peas and your greens, right? For New Year's. And all of that boils into this bonanza of spending money, eating poorly, and we do it in the name of being posh, being recognized by neighbors. I'm telling you how this developed. Some people will call it family time. You invite your family, y'all have spirits, you'll eat, y'all fellowship as a family. But how it developed was keeping up with the Joneses. Your family doesn't want to be left out of the who have the have and the have nots. We have it like you have it. They have it like we have it. Or we got it better than they got it. It's a really, really peculiar institution. And we have Kodak to thank for the onset of what America deems worthy, what America deems special, and what America deems, a worthwhile lifestyle based on the way that they film things, the Shirley card, the way that they set up postcards, because that has to come from an actual photo that they put onto a postcard, and then you sent it all over the nation or the world to your family, and they oohed and ahed at what you got and what you're doing and what you look like. And then, you bring it on back. And you felt like you were somebody. You could pat yourself on the back. What happened to those families, black, white, or indifferent, that couldn't afford the postcard, who couldn't afford the workup photographs with the Shirley card? Were they happy? Were they not happy? Interesting questions. If any boomers are out there, any of the greatest are out there, please tap in and let us know if you have any experience with the Shirley card, or just experience not being able to get a proper photograph taken of you and your family um, during the holidays or during a peak period of the year because of discrimination, racism, or things like that and the like. And I know I talk about it a lot, but that's the business. That's the business engine that runs America. I didn't make up the rules. It's what America do. So if anybody wants to tap in and talk about the Shirley card, Kodak, any of the blood money that they got from the Auschwitz Germans, and how that affected where we are right now, tap on in. The water's fine. I'll bring you up on stage. You can rock out with us here. We getting deep enough to swimming on the Real HD Show. Tap on in. Link is on the bottom. You put it in your URL. I let you up, or you could just leave me a comment and I'll put it on the screen. Let's get into our Lit City Report. Here we go. All right, we're in the middle of a Lit City Report, the wild, the wacky, the wonderful things that make our world go round, because we need levity. We need to live, love, laugh, and be better. Chikumbutsu, that's the African inventor who found a way to run a car on water. On water and hydrogen, no gasoline. And there's been a number of inventors that have come after him to do very similar groundbreaking things. There's a sister who solved and created a cure for nominal cancer with nanoparticles. Sister in America. And now we're going to get into some brothers from out of Africa. I believe it's Nigeria or Ghana that they're from. And they're going to show you how they have engineered something really powerful to help the disabled. Here we go. Lit City Report.
Njoroge. Since my childhood, I've been a curious and a passionate innovator.
And our dream is not only to live 5 years or 10 years, is to live hundreds of years. trying to come up with ideas that will aid the mobility of persons living with disability or help persons who are in need.
The device's mechanism is straightforward yet effective. It employs a headset to monitor brain signals and translate them into commands for the prosthetic arm.
This hand is being controlled by this neural rod by a potential headset receiver that monitors or taps the brain signals, and it extracts these specific features of these brain signals that reflects the intent of the user.
Explains one of the innovators. The process involves converting these signals into usable electrical currents via radio waves, which then drive the arm's linear motors to mimic natural hand movements, allowing for actions like gripping or releasing objects based on the user's thoughts. Unlike traditional prosthetics that might rely on muscle signals for operation, this design uses a neuron node biopotential headset for detecting neural signals, offering a more intuitive and natural control mechanism.
That's right. You heard about it. It's a Lit City report. Why should Elon Musk and them have all the fun? We got people that could get it done. We like to talk about them on the Real HD show. Two brothers out of Africa, I believe it's Ghana, and they invented a neuron focused piece of technology that can help people who have disabilities where their arm range of motion and in some cases incapacitation has been threatened, and you put the neuron stimulator on your head, you get it tested, and now you have an appendage that can work for you just like your arm used to do. You know what I mean? This is like Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader stuff. When Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker had the prosthetic hand, the robotic arm, you know? And now these brothers in Africa have come up with a way to do just that very thing that can help the disabled community in the United States and around the world, be better, live better by giving them an appendage, a robotic appendage that will, significantly increase the quality of their living. And all they have to do is think about it. The arm reacts. You can pick up drinks. You can write. You can do all sorts of interesting things with that piece of technology. I think it's way past time to focus on things like this. Um, so many different ways that people are incapacitated with their range of motion from their arms. Some people have cerebral palsy. Some people get incapacitated due to work. Um, many different things. The army, people come home from the army missing appendages, and then they can't even live a quality life because not only are they dealing with the trauma and the PTSD of serving, they're dealing with they're missing their arm, and they feel unbalanced, if not embarrassed, if not traumatized. And these brothers have done it. So we want to keep these brothers safe, but we also want to give them a lot of love and a lot of respect and credit and honor for coming up with this. And they're looking for investors. I wish I had $1 million. I'd give it to them. This is Professor Clump type stuff. You know what I mean? These are the inventions on the Nutty Professor, the movie, that he was getting paid to do and come up with all of these scientific breakthroughs that nobody could copy, nobody could duplicate. And we salute those brothers for doing something great. So if y'all want to talk about the two African young men who came up with this brilliant neurotechnology to help out the disabled community, um, if they had things like this during the 80s when the factories were heavy and people used to lose fingers on assembly lines and lose fingers doing hands and fingers and arms, uh, you know, utilizing heavy equipment, this would have given people a second lease on life. And it would have been a lot better than, just being a shell of yourself because the medical field did not have an alternative for you. So let us know what you think about it. You know what I mean? And of course, this is uh, Black and African the diaspora in effect, producing one more engaging, commodity for people that can save humanity. You know what I mean? Like Dave Chappelle said, "Come on, get your nigga lessons." We here again, putting on a cape, saving the day, showing away. So if y'all want to talk about that or any of the things that we talked about during our super segments, you guys can tap on in, and we will begin to make it better. You know what I mean? And last but not least, I want to show you something in our Lit City report. This is a great piece of information. This is really information. This is really, awareness so you can move fearless. And we want to show this on the show because there's a big stink being made about the real ID. And in some circles, people are saying it's a must. In some circles, people are saying it's not, so it's not a must. And they're also in airports right now, they are charging you $18. $18 if you don't have a real ID or a passport. If you come in there with just a driver's license or you come in there with some sort of other formal ID that used to be accepted, now if you don't have the real ID, you can pay your way into your privilege, right? Murdoch versus Penn. You can't tax what was an inalienable right. Mobility, according to the Supreme Court, is an inalienable right. They even set up interstate commerce. Adams, because of this, President Adams, right? So, according to Murdoch Penn, you cannot take a law that was a right, tax it, charge people a fee for it, and call it a privilege. That is against the law. But of course, in these days and times, the orange man and all his cronies, they don't care about the law, not so much. But then there's a few brave souls that are not afraid to have, put together class action lawsuits and claims that will have him all hemmed up and against the ropes and show just how unfit he is for his office and just how much of a fraud and a phony he is and where his true intentions lie. But let's check out the second half of this Lit City report right here on the Real HG Show. Here we go.
Ultimately yours. The Real ID strips your personal and private authority. The passport helps you restore it. The Real ID subjects you to federal corporate jurisdiction. See 6 CFR 37. It binds you as a federal beneficiary, meaning you get to participate as a defendant and a debtor. It converts your rights to travel into regulated privileges. You are also enrolled in a federal surveillance network. You have no privacy. You operate as an American national or a foreign national because America is foreign to the corporation of the United States. You are operating in your private capacity. You are able to operate with your unalienable rights to travel. It is not a privilege. You are able to be tax exempt. Remember, the passport governs land, air, and water jurisdiction. When you correct your status, family, you are connecting yourself back to your state's constitution, back to common law, and back to the original American Constitution of 1787. The Republic didn't go anywhere, family. It's right here. The Constitution original intent for America was to be 50 sovereign nation union states that gave the people full authority. The Act of 1871 created the District of Columbia. This is your United States, right? This is that government. This is the home rule charters, codes, statutes. But these 50 nation states, 50 sovereign states, they are under the Republic. Democracy. The federal government does not have any power or authority over the Republic. You have to connect yourself back to the Republic. December 28th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the Status Correction Masterclass.
All right, go check that brother's masterclass out. I know Real Nagas has a really dope status class as well. You can check out. They want 1,000 or 1,000,000 Johnny Cochrans. And what he's saying is absolutely right and exact. We got to tap in. We got to be, given, utilize that awareness to move fearless and realize that we are giving up our voluntary consent every which way but loose. Every which way but loose. So, in other words, you give up your freedom voluntarily for some modern conveniences that don't amount to a hill of beans. But they expect you to, because they don't expect you to do the research, do the knowledge that's going to take you and make you a whole sovereign person. Um, the American tapestry of colonies were all sovereign nations because they all came from different sovereign areas of Europe. Touchdown. There was Germany and Georgia. There was Spain in the DMV area. There was the Dutch in New York. So you, as you can see, there was there was the French in in the Mississippi, um, you know, and Louisiana, right? The Louisiana Purchase, right? And then there was the Spanish down in Texas. So you could see all over the map there were different, ownership groups that owned all of the different colonies. So of course they wouldn't, you know, in 1789 decide to be a nation if they couldn't all agree and treaty on shared power, revenue share, shared power, agency amongst one another. And you becoming part of that, under that umbrella, under that state, you become sovereign in your own right. Because back then you were a pioneer. You had to clear the brush. You had to fight off the wolves and the lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! You had to build your log cabin from scratch. There was nobody around you to do something. You had to pitch. You had to chop wood and pitch fire for your warmth. There was no furnaces and heat ducts and all that good stuff. And now we fast forward to now with all of those laws on the books, and they just apply it very, very differently. And if you give up your sovereign or your independence for whatever volunteer volunteer conveniences that they got locked in for you, and you don't really assert yourself as to how those things affect your life and make you more or less dependent on who they are, right? And we already learned that in 1871, America became incorporated. So they were no longer a sovereign nation. They were incorporated. Why? Because they went broke and they had to borrow money. And they set up charters over and over again. That happened again in 1913, and then it happened again in 1933 when the stock market crashed. So there were many, many, many times when America was in debt, and that's why there is a national debt. A very good book to get into in terms of that would be um, The Creature from Jekyll Island and how the Federal Reserve was created. Very, very good book. Very, very good reading. It will, kind of clear away the cobwebs and some of the confusion as to where you stand in the American tapestry of finance, where you stand in the United States dot Inc. Delaware Corporation status, and if you want to be, free of uh, being a hmm, being under the thumb. I don't want to get too deep. Well, frick it, let's get deep. So when you are under America Inc., right, they can create a straw man for you. What's a straw man? A straw man is an identity that uh, is your legal representative. So you go to court, you deal in any sort of like high finance, your legal representative, your straw man, shows up for you. Why? Because you are a debt instrument that the American government created. Um, you don't believe me? Go look on your birth certificate and ask yourself why there is a barcode. If you're not a commodity, why do you have to have a barcode on your birth certificate? Why is that? A barcode denotes a commodity. Do we have we got a comment? Okay. So, yeah, bar note denotes commodity. America has been dealing in commodities since 1526, you know? So why would we think, I'm talking about, on them that peculiar institution, rocking back and forth in them ships, you know? We were stock. Folks were stock back then, and they're stock now, just in a different way, just in a different frame, function, and feature. And it's up to you to know how, the who, what, the five W's: who, what, when, why, how, right? And how that applies to you wholesale. So, you know, I'm very happy to bring that information to you. You don't want a straw man to work yourself out of the straw man. Go seek those legal status classes so that you can, be in proper status and not be a pawn for America Inc. Um, I've brought this information to the show plenty of times. We've talked about it ad nauseum. So when I'm short about it, it's not because I don't want to go into super, super detail, but I've done it in the past. I did a whole series about, the straw man and the government, the straw man complex, right? The straw man data complex in the United States. I've done a whole week's worth of, I did like 5 episodes on it. So you can go back in the Real HD Show archives, check that out, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and get back to me with any questions or concerns you might have on it. We've talked about it with Brother Mozzie. We've talked about it with Av and Sincere and all of the great people that have been on the show, Lala, and all of the great people that have been on the Real HD Show, either hosting or panelists or what have you. So get back to us with what you think about that. And be careful about your digital print online as well, because that can be an AI, an avatar, a strawman avatar for you as well. Um, you know, I remember 2 years ago, they were talking about combining your DNA with your digital existence and combining the two in some sort of like uh, creature that would be in that would have like a tech presence. Now they shifted a little bit from that, and now it's all about AI and all of that type of stuff. But they're using people's um, personal and private information to train these AIs that will ultimately do just that: create straw man avatars of your personage if you're not careful. I hope you guys heeded my warning about going on Google and changing your privacy settings so the boogeyman is not aware of what you do, how you do, and when you do. You don't want them in your DMs. You don't want them in your emails, and you certainly don't want them um, having a two-way ACR link into your private life. So please go on Google, go on your phone, go on any of your devices, get into those back offices and change all your privacy settings so we don't give Google and this AI monster any way that they can track us and make us a straw man for their nefarious purposes. All right, we are original people. We should stay that way. Um, and if we want to reach another type of self, let's make it a higher self. Let's not make it a lower self. Let's not make it a virtual self that others can manipulate. Um, because just like we saw in the video, they can take your likeness and, you know, switch it up on you. And they didn't do a really good job of protecting your identity in the regular way. So, of course, they're not going to do a great job in protecting your identity in the ethereal or virtual sense. So, let's get that. Let's get that going. Let's protect ourselves. And if you can't get that going, let's form some lobbying groups that we can, get these MFers charged up about. Let's put some money in the right places. Let's play the game the correct way, and let's lobby their asses off. Let's class action lawsuit their asses off so that we're protected and they have to do what we need them to do because we are paying to play. You know what I mean? We got to have that vanguard, man. We got to create that muscle that backs our wishes, that backs our inventions, that protects our families and protects our future. All right, y'all. We moving on. I wanted to do a local story, right? And Rochester just got $600 million signed over to them and put in budgetary form by Kathy Hochul. $600 million. And I'm sure my man Howard Eagle might want to chime in on this one. If you're listening, bro, jump on in. The water's fine. Um, and it's supposed to be for, upgrades for the schools in the Rochester area, the Monroe County area. And that led me to think about some really interesting questions. Well, if they're going to improve upon the education of the Monroe County, Rochester area, what type of improvements do we want? And essentially, what type of improvements to education do we want? What type of curriculums do we want in a 21st century world? Do we, is the current level and the current offerings in current education serving our kids? Is it serving us? Did you graduate from high school and felt like you were ready to jump into the workforce? Did you graduate from college and feel like you were ready to jump into the workforce with the pedagogy and the erudition that you received over the years? Did you feel prepared? Or after working some kind of meaningless jobs for a 5 to 7 year period, and then you decided, damn it, I got to do it on my own. This ain't working. I got to make my own business. And then you spend another 10 years developing a business for yourself so that you could be independent and be a proprietor when you could have done that from the door. You could have did that. You could have started working on that since you were 13, since you were working 14, working age, when most of us had a work permit and we were able to run around with our little summer youth money and buy a pair of sneakers and, take your girl out to the movies once or twice, and then that money was gone. But all that time, we could have been working on solidifying an independent future for ourselves so that we don't have to be anybody's 9 to 5 lackey. We don't have to go through glass ceilings to prove our worth and show our abilities and talents and them be denied. And we have to kind of reorganize ourselves after a 10 to 15 year period and say, I should have been an independent proprietor to begin with. A lot of time wasted, a lot of income left out there. We didn't score the way we didn't win. We didn't score. We left points on the board. You know what I mean? Wasted time. So how do we envision that education? Um, what does it mean for us? What does the 21st century dictate to us where we think we might need to invoke that specialized education? Coding, AI training, what does that mean? How do we fortify ourselves in a time period where AI is dominating, or at least they want AI to dominate the commerce activity countrywide, nationwide, worldwide? And how are we as a 44 million block in America? How are we as a diaspora going to answer that call? How healthy is that for us, or not healthy? Tap on in. I've been a teacher for over 2 decades. I've seen a lot come and go. I've taught Head Start, disabled kids. I've coached, and I've also taught high school kids, graduating many, many classes of young men and young ladies. And I haven't always felt confident that based on the glass ceiling that they give educators, that we fully prepared the young people to go out there and be the best that they can be based on the public education that their parents are paying taxes on. So what type of education are we looking to get? Are we look? Do we want to go back to the old Prussian school model, where we got to fold our hands and be dictated to? Do we want more of a hands-on experience where we're learning while doing? Do we want more of a dictatory um, setting? Do we want more of a college atmosphere to the way that our kids learn? What do we expect from education, right? And what can that 600 million that Kathy Hochul signed onto and the New York State Assembly sign onto, what will that do for the Rochester area? And this could go for any area in the country, because I'm sure all the areas around New York and probably the East Coast are simultaneously going through their education coffers and deciding what's going to be important over the next 10 years and doling out monies to make that happen. And how do you want to see your kids or your grandkids prosper in that way? You know what I mean? How do you want to see these schools improve? We had a conversation the other day about our kids going to school too early. Now I understand that people need their, breakfast program, and the lunch program is vital for so many people. But are we sending kids to school too early? Are there, I run into some conversations with some people where, depending on the busing and the transportation, they got to be on the curb by 5:45 every morning. Crazy as hell. I just drove my daughter to school. I said, we're not going to do that. We're going to take that hour or that next hour and a half to really adjust ourselves and get into the frame of being productive. You know what I'm saying? And then what I saw as an educator is I saw way too many young people being late for school and coming to school with a lot of, poison breakfast is what I used to call it, McDonald's and whatever they could get whatever they could scrounge up, Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. And then, the parent feels like they have a right to let the kid eat it right there. And that takes away from the educational time that they could be utilizing. And what type of education do you want this $600 million to reflect and represent for people, for taxpayers, for the melanated community in Rochester, or for that matter, New York, for that matter, the East Coast or the country, right? And as far as melanated people go, I got a bone to pick with some auspices because, you know, they expect this $600 million is at play. The quality of education of what's currently being doled out is at play. But yet, we know we're living in a different time. We've had our ethnogenesis in the United States that made us a distinct people. They claim that we got equal protection under the law. But yet, in all these areas, we still have many, many um, areas, regions, statues, etc., that are that have nomenclature for racist people and racist practices. Like all of the founders of Rochester were slave owners. Every one of them. We got Humboldt, we got Nathaniel Rochester, we got Henrietta, and the list goes on and on and on. And, you know, okay. And yeah, sorry about that. I got distracted by somebody trying to get my attention. But here's what I wanted to show you. There are a couple of articles about if we're paying taxes, right, into an educational system that's supposed to provide our young people with a quality education, why do they have to go to schools with names of slave owners as the names that, headline the schools? So, they love us when we play basketball and football and baseball and we excel and we make their product look good. But we got to wear their racist names on our back. We got to wear Henrietta and Rochester on our back, or our kids have to wear it on their backs, or go to a school and know that the forebearer of that school was some racist dude that raped, killed, and pillaged and terrorized folks for his own, commercial gain, and it was law of the land. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And HBCUs go through this very same thing. Morehouse and Spelman, all named after benefactors that were white people. Spelman was named after Rockefeller's wife, you know? And, Morehouse is a white name. All of these HBCUs that currently exist with white names of white establishments, corps, orgs, so on and so forth, that they have not taken the time to change. What does that reflect? And how do our young people see prosperity in themselves if they're going to institutions that symbolically share a poison past? Talk to us. These are the things that we need to be bringing up to these, putting on voting stages and electoral stages and congressional stages for debate, because we need these things. We need these things changed. We need these things looked at, in heavy way and in heavy capacity, so that we could be better and forge a better future. And they know when they absolutely know. And this is why uh your orange man basically signed an executive order saying all those statues that were put down and tore down, and put them on back up. You know what I'm saying? I'm Debo and the whole shit. Put them all back up. Well, I ain't playing with y'all. Put them all up, because we want to make sure that the energy and the symbolism that is what those statues represent stays intact. And if you want to be part and parcel with the America that is or will be, you will kowtow to that imagery. I was also talking with my wife, and we were talking about, the kind of magnanimous nature of what those statues represent. And it's really an apotheosis. And we talked about what apotheosis is before, and that's the, transformation of an icon into a godlike figure. Like when you go into the Capitol building and you walk a couple of feet into the rotunda, and you look up and you got that dome shaped, kind of mural. It's George Washington riding on a cloud. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick and share my screen. Let me see if I can pull that up. Let's see. And then on the Capitol building, in front of it, right on the triangle area in the front of the building, real high, you'll see the apotheosis of the gods. And then you walk into the building, you walk into the frame of the building, and then you'll see it on the ceiling. Um, and it is ridiculous. Um, I think I found one of them. Yep. I think I found one of them. Yep. Found the picture. Um, yeah, let me show this real quick. Um, so let me share my screen. The apotheosis of Washington. Yeah, I think I'll be playing, man. I think I'll be its and giggles real quick. You know what I mean? This is real crap. And this is what these people truly believe. These people truly believe that they're gods. They take these Freemason oaths, they take these clandestine oaths, and they think that gives them a reason and an opportunity to act like, you know, they're better than original people. And that is so non cipher. That is so incorrect. I don't even know where to begin with that, you know. But if you could look on this screen here, let me see if you can see it. If you look at the center, if you look at the center toward the bottom, you'll see all of the, people in kind surrounding Washington, right? And then you'll also see Washington in the middle in his apotheosis. Um, See, they're all on fluffy clouds. You see that? That is absolutely crazy. And what are these people below them? These are the Greeks. See, you got Poseidon here with his staff, and then you got all kinds of other gods and goddesses. You got Athena there, and Zeus is there, and here you got Washington riding on a cloud. This dude thought he was a god. Pres Zoder, first to sit as king or god, right? And we don't know that these are the ways that these people move. And are these the things that you want your children educated in? You want your children educated that George Washington is their God? Or the founding fathers of this country represent like the Elohim that they're supposed to way to and pray to? Man, we need to get it together. We need to ask the pertinent questions. We need to get in the pertinent spaces and imagine education that we're paying taxes for that really serves our young people. Because if you didn't go out there and seek it and seek that knowledge of self for yourself, you will not get it from this current state of education. So if y'all want to talk about that, if y'all want to chop it up on that level, please tap on in. The water's fine. You know what I mean? We getting deep enough to swim in on a Real HD show. We talking about apotheosis. We're talking about racist names on regions, schools, statues, buildings that our kids are forced to ingratiate themselves with, learn, be, get the erudition of, putting these people into iconic status in their life. And then it creates imposter syndrome. And then it creates all types of inferiority complexes in these children. And then we wonder why. Do I have the Rob Reiner joint up? Let me see. Do I have that? No, I don't. All right, let me put that up real quick. We wonder why Rob Reiner, son, and even though he, probably had some um disabilities that weren't really addressed properly, Rob Reiner's son killed him and his wife. Now, if you don't know Rob Reiner is the famous Hollywood director. He directed First Wives Club. He directed a lot of really famous films. Wow, if I run down the list of all the bucket list, how many? What was another one? Ridiculous amounts of films. And then his son started becoming a wayward kid after being, found that he had a disability. And of course, Rob Reiner is running around the earth, directing everything under the sun. And then we wonder why, the chicken come home to roost for Rob Reiner, and his kid winds up killing him and his wife. And you know him best from, if you're of age, right? He was Meathead on Archie Bunker, right? Um, and his kid, his son, winds up killing him and the wife, him and the mother. And that's a horrible way to go out. And I've been noticing and observing that a lot of people chasing that Hollywood fame, chasing the bag, that chose to put their career before their family, or whatever the case may be. You have a super demanding schedule, and you really can't be what you need to be for your family, but you are who you need to be for the marketplace first. right? And I'm not telling anybody you're not supposed to be out there and make money. But if you get an inkling that your family is suffering on behalf of how you're how you're earning a living, well, then you got your principles screwed up. Your principles are all screwed up because you you eat to live. You don't live to eat. You know what I mean? So, and that's for all of the young kids. I like to say, "Oh, we eating," and that's a slang for how productive you're being, right? Well, if your productivity and the schedule for your productivity is taking you away from being the man of your family, or being a man, or being a father to your children, then that is not a schedule that you should be adhering to. And I bet you, if a Rob Reiner, here he is in the shared screen, I bet you, and there's his son, and everybody found out the news. There's him on the right hand side as a young man playing in Archie Bunker show, Archie Bunker's Place. He was the love interest of Sally Struthers on the show, and he went on to become this famous director. And that's him and his father when they were when he was young, and Rob Reiner was young right after Archie Bunker. And Hollywood as a community is reeling because of this. But I'm here to say that I bet this is the story of many, many entertainment based households of directors, households of actors, households of people in entertainment that have had these impossible schedules. And it takes away from you leading, developing, and raising your family properly. And when you start moving into acres and spaces like that, and you could do a TED talk, but you can't be there for your son to help your son and keep your son on the hip and really help him see straight, do straight, live straight. You know what I mean? You need to drop what you're doing and get back involved with what's real in your life. And then he has the wherewithal to come back and kill your parents, the people that brought him into the world. Wild stuff, man. Wild stuff. And I mean, you could look at like, Magic Johnson's son, Dwayne Wade's son, Michael Jordan's son. Wow. It's so many examples, and there's girls involved with that as well. But, you know, it's wild business going on out here. Please take the time to raise, love, and educate your kids, and making sure that they are who they're supposed to be in this world. Because you designed them, you brought them here. So you might as well see them through the finish line. And to be able to throw a ton of resources at them is not the only way that you can show love and support for your children. The clothes will fade, the cars will fade, the allowances will get spent, the food will get eaten, the luxuries will get non appreciated. But what you put into those kids' minds, what you put into their development, and what you put into how they become great people, good people with good character, ready to do good things in the world, man. And if you get an inkling that your kid has some like mental disability or some sort of whatever, man, you don't need to make 56 films. You really don't. You don't need an IMDb like Rob Reiner to facilitate your family and uh pay for your kids expenses if they have a disability. I'm gonna put up his IMDb right now. Um and we're gonna look at it just a minute. And a lot of films that he did were good, but you didn't have to make those films. Those films, we could have did without certain films that he made, and he could have been home dealing with his family. You know what I mean? And he's an old man here. He's an old man here, right? And that's him and Sally Struthers right there. Can you see that? Let me see if you guys. No, all right. Let me share my other screen and let me stop sharing this one. Let me come on out and get back in one more again, right? And show you this Rob Reiner IMDb that isn't what is to be. It's not the move, y'all. It really ain't. And our obsession with celebrity lifestyles and lifestyles of the rich and famous is what they called it way back in the day. Um, and we lapped it up, as you know, boomers. We lapped it up. He made the story of us that was really good. Wolf of Wall Street, The Spinal Tap. He had so many movies, man. He worked on Conan, the late night TV host. Um, The Princess Bride. That was a really good movie. Um, I ain't gonna hold you. I would have liked to see him continue make this The Princess Bride. That was a really dope story. But shout out to him being from the Boogie Down. That's my hometown, right? Um, I'm trying to get a load of how many features and films he's actually been able to do. 90. Whoa, you talking about 90? He did 90 feature films. But yet you can't take care of home. You can't cut that in half and do 45 and still be able to live off of the prosperity of those 45 things, those 45 films. I don't even know if Spike Lee has 45 films, but this dude has 90 feature films. 90. But he can't make sure that his kid is good so that his kid ain't coming back to do some crazy stuff on him and really put him in a bad way. And him and his wife, seniors, you know what I mean? That's wild business. And we really don't pay attention enough to the erudition and education and pedagogy of people who have disabilities. We know that with George Floyd. We know that with Daniel Prude. We know that with a lot of different people who suffered life ending trauma and life ending events simply because there wasn't enough development and TLC put into them as a person. Let me see if there's a comment. Let's see. No comments. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, man, why don't y'all join in, Obscene? Come on, Obscene, join in, man. Give us a comment. Let us know. Queenstead, um, jump in, give us a comment. Everybody jump in, man. This is about y'all. We idolize, we get into the celebrity culture trap. Gotta get the bag, gotta live like whoever you idolize at the moment, whoever is the celebrity of your fancy, the figure of your fancy. We try to live vicariously through their exploits and their tales. And these people are human beings just like us. They put on their drawers one leg at a time. They eat shit and breathe just like we do. They just happen to be on a wide screen. And the propaganda of what the widescreen actually means, uh, and the hype of it all creates monsters like a Diddy. So you following all that propaganda and you creating a Diddy, or you creating somebody that's running around, um, you know, and their sexual exploits are having them, incapacitating young people like a Epstein or a Rock Hudson, where he's so, you know, into everybody else, and he was like a download dude, and he led the celebrity community in the amount of celebrities who had AIDS in the early '80s, and it was when him and Ronald Reagan's son, when the two of them came down with AIDS, and it wasn't just the gay and lesbian community in New York anymore. Then everybody wanted to get up, stand up, and do something about, you know, the culture that, you know, this pervasive culture of debauchery, right? So I'm just posing these questions, man. I don't have all the answers. I got tons of questions, like like this one right here. I'll get into this one, and then I'll get out of here. There's two of them I wanted to get into. I'll just put them out there, And if you guys have comments on what I showed you as a community, we can talk about it next time we get on the show when they get out of here by 9:30. This is Kodak Black, right? Famous rapper out of Florida, Haitian kid. And a lot of times, I feel sorry for him because once again, didn't receive a great education. Once again, you know, has a large platform with a lot of sound bites that just don't make any sense. I don't know if he was high off that scissor, that Molly, that perk, those annies. I don't know what he was doing. But he was saying some stuff that really wasn't too cool, that wasn't too kosher. And if he understood history more or had more or just got more of an education, pick up a book, read some Dr. Ben, read some Dr. Clark, read some, even read some, Renoko Rashidi, and try to ingratiate yourself in, even if you just studied the history of Haitian people, you would have found out more than, what you're spewing out your pie hole and turn around. You sound like the new Kanye West, man. Let me just play it and then we'll get on it when we come back. Here we go.
Fuck, man. I know y'all from Africa too. I just hate the Africans who act like y'all better than motherfuckers and like we what you call it. Y'all Africans should have never sold niggas, bro. Bro, people, bro. Why you think slavery go good, bro? I'm not mad at slavery, bro. Cause white people are slaving people too. You know what, bro? Black people, bro, we pussy as fuck, man. I'ma say that. Ghana need me. I need y'all too. Stay on the. Man, I'm lit.
Look how the dark people.
There you go. And there you go. I'm lit. So he's high, talking shit, talking out the side of his neck, and then talking about how black people aren't courageous enough to. If I'm interpreting what he's saying, if you think he's saying something different, tap on in. That's what the higher discussion is all about. But I think he's saying that black people are afraid to fight against slavery. And that is so far from the truth. Now, because the media complex wants to perpetuate bullshit in the name of valid information, all we think is that black people didn't defend themselves during the antebellum slavery process. And that is so far from the truth. You know, you had Harper's Ferry, you know, um, you had Stono Rebellion, you had the Bacon Rebellion, you had Nat Turner, you had John Brown, you had Harriet Tubman. I mean, I can go on and on and on, man. You had Denmark VC, you had so many courageous people. You had the Deacons of Defense, you had, Robert Williams in the South, you had all the wars that black people fought in. There wasn't one United States war that black people weren't a part of or didn't turn the tide in. The Black Panthers, the Young Lords, SNCC, Fred Hampton and his organization. Man, it was so many, many. And when I say many, the push movement in Philly, with John Africa. There was so many, so many. And we've talked about a gang of them. The uh the Knights of Tabor, right before the start of the Civil War. We're gonna create a nationwide rebellion to end slavery. Right there, they were gonna do it, and the only reason that they didn't do it is because they heard or they got wind of the soldiers enlisting and that slavery was going to be abolished as of 2 years before uh, 1863. So we're talking 1861. And if you don't believe me, look up Knights of Tabor or Knights of Liberty, and we did an episode on them as well in the stolen legacy moment. There was so many groups that fought, and so many. That's what that's what Wall Street, Black Wall Street was all about. That group fought. They didn't just lay down and let them fire, set fire and destroy their town. They fought. And the only way they can contain those people when they were fighting them over Tulsa, Oklahoma, was to firebomb them. That was the only way. That was the only way. And that really wasn't about a young black man whistled at a young white lady like, Emmett Till. And then that caused some riot or something. And then that was about the resources, the mineral resources that were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in the Oklahoma land mass period. Them Caucasoids wanted their hands on it. A great movie to check out for that is Flowers of a Killer Moon. Go check that out. Even though they're talking about the natives, they're in the state of Oklahoma. And if you go just south of the scene of within the movie, you'll run into Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there's vast amounts of oil, vast amounts of resources, so on and so forth. Now, they're mining cobalt and lithium out of those very same areas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, that whole, Trail of Tears type of area. So, we're about to end this thing right now. Kodak Black don't know what he's talking about. He hasn't read enough. He hasn't studied enough. And just as a general rule, I just don't think entertainers should use their podiums or their soapboxes or their platforms to talk about how they feel about. You know what? I take that back. I think they should. And you know why? The reason why they should is that where these people are. You know where they are mentally. You know what they stand for. And it will show people to follow them or not follow them, be involved in their journey or not be involved with their journey. Let them really open their mouth and tell you what they all about. And they will reveal some things to you that will be eye-opening. You'll be like, yo, he's really dumb. Or he or she is really intelligent. And I like what they're doing with their opportunities, with their ability to, kind of, work the landscape and affect and influence the masses. And I think, a lot of them need to read more. I think a lot of them need to reach out for leadership and counsel with those who have studied and those who do know. And then and they'd be better off. They can incorporate that into their success, their stardom, their fame, their way that they, deal with people and deal with each other. And in that way, we would all be able to stay on code. This your brother. That was awareness. So you can move fearless. We are the Real HD Show at a higher discussion. Make sure you tap in and let us know what points of the show tonight you appreciate it, right? Timestamp it, leave us a comment, share the show. We have many, many gems and jewels that were dropped that need further development, that need further answers and further conversation. And we know you can provide that. So don't be afraid to tap in. Don't be afraid to, get your hands dirty in these topics because you have family members, you have wives, children, grandchildren, family members that you want to see have progressive futures. Now's the time to tap in and talk about the things that actually matters in those ways. I'm your boy, the Vic. This is the higher discussion show. We love those who tapped in. We love those who gave comments. We love those who paid attention. And we even love those who played peekaboo in and out of the show. We want you to stay and have a higher discussion with us. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on all your notifications. So every time we have a Real HD show, you too can tap in and have a higher discussion with us. So peace and walk with power. Y'all love 'em.